Put away your pitchforks, Steelers fans. TJ Watt is Defensive Player of the Year. I know we had a whole plan to go and take down the NFL headquarters if this happened again, but it's not happening because your guy, TJ Watt, is the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. We're going to talk about that on this show, what it was like, JJ Watt presenting him the award, what other Steelers have said about him. Joe Green had a really good clip. Jerome Bettis has said some things. There's a lot of really cool things that came of this, and we've all talked about what are the Steelers doing next at quarterback, but isn't what TJ Watt is going to be able to do, what we know he's going to be able to do over the next 4 or 5 years, a big part of who the Steelers could be in this next era of what this franchise becomes? Of course it will be. We'll break down how that could really work out for the Steelers' favor, as well as give you our Super Bowl predictions. I'm Chris Carter. Joining me today will be Jenna Harner of Channel 11 WPXI. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things in the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, and YouTube. Be sure to hit the like button if you're watching this video on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for all of our daily content, as it's all free Monday through Friday. If you want to help out the show, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts with a positive comment, and you get a special shout out at the end of the show. Today's episode is brought to you by Get Upside. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code Touchdown to get 25 cents per gallon or more cash back on your first tank when you fill up at your local gas station. Thanks again for making this your first listen of the day. We are joined by our regular Friday guest, Jenna Harner, who is live in LA, y'all. She's been covering the Super Bowl all week long. She's been there working hard, crushing it, doing what she does for Channel 11 WPXI. Jenna, how you living out there?
It is wonderful. I will have to say the sunshine here every day has been the most wonderful thing. I realize how good my mood is. I'm like, oh my God, it's sunny and warm again. So Pittsburgh, I promise I will bring this back with me when I come back after the Super Bowl on Monday.
You better. I am tired. I am tired of this cold stuff.
I promise. I promise. The cold isn't fun. I needed a break, and so we're here. But yeah, I will bring this back with me, and hopefully it's like a nice little warm up.
It would be that would be awesome. But let's get down to the big story. Of course, TJ Watt has won Defensive Player of the Year, and going away, the votes revealed. I think there were only 5 votes of the voters that didn't vote for him. Some went to Michael Parsons, some went to Aaron Donald, but TJ Watt won the far out majority of the votes. There wasn't really much debate, and it was a pretty cool moment. JJ Watt, getting to present to him, and JJ Watt having won it 3 times himself. This was kind of a passing of the torch, and it was a really cool one because Steelers fans especially had known, man, there's been at least 2 years where TJ could have won the award, and Steelers fans finally get to say, hey, that's Defensive Player of the Year right there.
And it was such a cool, when JJ Watt came out, because even TJ didn't know. I mean, you would assume he kind of had an idea, but we didn't kind of know he was going to be presenting this award. And then all of a sudden it was okay, this feels like it has to be TJ. Of course it does. Why would JJ be presenting this award of all things? And him and Katy Perry's shtick about someone really well is getting, is up for this award. But what a cool moment for the two of them just to hug the way they did, that embrace on stage. I mean, you just saw that, brotherly emotion. That's exactly what this was. And this was something, Chris, you and I have heard all season long. TJ Watt, this was something he set his eyes on. This was something he was like, I want to accomplish this. I want to get this. He set his sights on this. And his team campaigned for him every single week.
They did. I mean, Cam and Ben, everybody was saying, give this man Defensive Player. They would tell us, the media in our set, we wouldn't even ask about it. And they would be like, give this man Defensive Player of the Year. It was an active campaign on their part.
It really was. And just what a cool moment. I love the camera shot when they panned to his mom and dad, and they were both just so misty. You could just tell how much this meant. Because again, especially after last season, a lot of people were like, okay, what more does he have to do? TJ Watt even said that himself. What more do I have to do? And this was the season. He went out, he did it. And it kind of was one of those, you expected it to happen, but I think Steelers fans were definitely still holding their breath a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, and literally, he tied the NFL sack record. He literally tied what Michael Strahan set. And it's like, okay,
Yep.
what else do you need? You need to break it? You need to do that and break the interception record at the same time? That was what it was getting down to. And Steelers fans, I feel for you, because this was ridiculous. Like you thought last year, and listen, Aaron Donald, one of the greatest players of all time, absolutely, and that's tough competition to be up against. But this year, it's like, look, TJ got the double teams. TJ was held a lot. You can't say that he was just getting good matchups. The Steelers, were hurt up every other week, so you can't say any of that. So what other excuse you got? And eventually, the committee was like, all right, he's been through it. He's a superstar. Like, we'll give him his due. But another cool thing about this, Jenna, is he is now the 7th Pittsburgh Steeler to win the Defensive Player of the Year. This is now the 8th time that a Steeler has won Defensive Player of the Year, because Joe Green won it twice. No other team in NFL history since the start of this award has won more than 4. Only the Ravens and the Giants each have 4 Defensive Player of the Year winners. That is insane.
That is crazy to think about. And it also speaks to what this Pittsburgh Steelers defense and their defensive identity is. There's such a team that's built on that. That's something they've been so, intense and intent on since you go back to, the Steel Curtain days. That's what this team is. And that's how, that's how they're built. It's something they're so they're so proud of and prideful in, and it's crazy to kind of see this legacy continued. And we heard TJ Watt in the post game, the post award press conference, just talk about that. Carrying on this legacy, how awesome it is to be in that company of those guys. And, Troy Polamalu was the last guy to win this back in 2010. So it's been a while that a Steelers defensive player has won this, but I feel like no one more deserving. And again, especially after the season he had, especially considering too, you look back to the Ravens game, and I don't know about you, but I think he should have broken the sack record. That's just me. Now
you like the Steelers fans just put the pitchforks away, but here's Jenna Horner trying to pick it back up. We got work to do. But in all seriousness, Jenna, it's a huge moment for him, a really cool moment for the organization. And again, the reason I brought up the number is because you're right. This is the identity of the Pittsburgh Steelers as an organization, whether it's the 70s, the 90s, the 2000s, or right now. The Steelers have, in their best days, have been about the defense, have been about shutting people down, creating opportunities for the offense, and letting that unit be the group that carries forward. And a lot of people have said, in today's NFL, the days of dominant defense are over, because just the rules don't allow for it. There's too many talented quarterbacks out there. But maybe the Steelers could be the group that disproves that in the coming years. I want to talk to Jenna more about this in just a minute here, because I do think that TJ Watt, people are talking about, it's Ben Roethlisberger, who's going to be his heir, who's going to be the next guy that carries the Steelers forward. What if it's not a quarterback? What if it is the defense that carries the Steelers forward, and they're the group, and TJ Watt is the guy that leads them? There's some historical context there that I think would really work out. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. But first, we got to talk to you guys about Get Upside. Steelers fan, this is Chris Carter with an incredible app everyone who buys gas needs to know about. It's called Get Upside. My listeners are earning cash back for every gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now, and use promo code Touchdown to get 25 cents per gallon or more cash back on your first fill up. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. Just download the app for free and use promo code Touchdown for 25 cents per gallon. Some people who drive a lot are making as much as $200 or $300 a year in cash back, and there's no catch. The cash back gets added right to your account. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Be sure to download the free Get Upside app and use promo code Touchdown to get 25 cents per gallon or more on cash back on your first tank. That's promo code Touchdown on the Get Upside app. We're also brought to you by BetOnline.net. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before, as football is about to have the Super Bowl. It's not just about the scores. It's not just about who wins. It's about the props, who scores first, who gets this many yards. Will so-and-so get, will Joe Mixon have over 50 yards rushing? Will this guy? All those type of bets, you can go to betonline.net right now and place your bets down, because betonline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. It's not just football. BetOnline has up to the minute on info on pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, along with live real-time updates of current games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the new amazing offers available for the 2022 season at BetOnline, where the game starts. Back-to-back ad reads when we keep rolling, Jenna, so let's keep rolling. Let's talk about the perspective idea here of TJ and the defense being the unit that sort of galvanizes the Steelers and take them forward. And I mentioned this yesterday because Josh Taylor brought this up to me on Wednesday's episode, that if you look back, even in the past 3 years, with or without Ben Roethlisberger, the Steelers have won 29 games. 22 of those games, the defense has allowed 20 or less points to the opponent, and they've won the turnover battle. In today's NFL, that's pretty doggone dominant. That means you're putting in the serious work. That means you're keeping an opponent from scoring at least 3 touchdowns, and you're getting your offense the ball back more than the other team's defense is. To me, that is a sign of there is greatness in the defense. There's struggles at times. If you look back at the last 3 years, they were number 5. They were the 5th best defense in points and yards allowed in 2019. They were the 3rd best defense in points and yards allowed in 2020. Those numbers dipped, of course, in 2021 with the run defense problems. But Jenna, TJ Watt, he's been a superstar for so long. He continues to get better. I truly think that when you look at the greats that you were talking about, whether it's James Harrison or Troy Polamalu or Mean Joe Green or all the guys that have won the award for the Steelers, we've seen that this organization win based off of those type of pillar players holding the team up.
And it's the classic, offense wins games, defense wins championships type thing. I know it's such a cliche, but that is something that I think, especially going into next season, when you have the Steelers team that isn't entirely sure what their offensive identity is going to be, because again, we have no idea who's going to be under center for them come week 1 of the season. But this is something the team can rally around. I mean, we hear all the time, all last season, the guys just talk about the leadership that TJ Watt has. We know the leadership Cam Heyward has. We know kind of the leadership role Minkah Fitzpatrick has really kind of stepped into. I mean, these are stars on this defense that are such impact players. They make those splash plays we hear Mike Tomlin talk about all the time. So those are guys you absolutely can build around, and that's going to be a thing. This, in a way, I think this coming season might feel a little bit like 2019. I keep doing math wrong. 2019, when Ben Roethlisberger gets hurt and you're relying on Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges, but that defense was so stellar, and that defense kept them in a lot of games and forced those turnovers, forced those fumbles and interceptions, and gave their offense short fields and that easy way to score. I think we're going to see that a lot this season, and I think that's something, again, this team can build on. It was really interesting during the season when Jerome Bettis would come into the Channel 11 studio and we would tape the Jerome Bettis show. I remember him vividly. We kind of talked about, what this team's window is and what they look like. Are they Super Bowl contenders? Can they be that team? I feel like we always have those types of conversations, but he told me because of this defense, they absolutely can be. I mean, you have guys like TJ Watt, like Cam Heyward, like Minkah Fitzpatrick. Maybe if Stephon Tuitt, is able to come back this season, you add him back into the mix. You have these guys that are playmakers, guys like Joe Hayden, those types of players, that this window isn't closed for this team because of this defense. The offense, yes, there's still some question marks, but this defense is really something that is such a big strength of this team and something that can carry them. And that is something you absolutely kind of have to, we talk about building around, but you really do have to kind of bolster it as much as you can to give them so many weapons. And we know the Steelers have a decent amount of cap space coming into the season. They have that money that they'd be able to spend. I think in top 10 in the league, top 15 in the league in terms of what they can spend.
I believe top 10. Let me confirm that right now by checking my numbers here.
Yeah,
they're definitely top 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In fact, they are 10 exactly, but that's not even including when Ben Roethlisberger's money comes off the books. That'll throw money on. Then they could still get rid of players like Eric Ebron, Joe Schobert. You make some other moves. You can also restructure guys that are getting money like TJ, like Cam, and then the Stephon Tuitt question. that they could get themselves in the 60 million range of cap space this year if they do enough work. I mean, that would put you in a place where you're sitting there saying, well, okay, you could legitimately get 2 or 3 star players,
Yeah.
for that can contribute, whether it's on the offensive line, the defense, wherever. And I think that changes the dynamic of what this Steelers team could look like. Remember, when the Steelers have tried to reload and create these great defenses, they've done so with the hefty Ben Roethlisberger contract. And for many of those years, also the hefty David DeCastro contract, the
Yep.
hefty Marquise Pouncey contract. All of those are now going to be off the books. That
Mhm.
I think that opens up a big door for them to say, you know what, let's commit financially to
Yep.
being the number one defense.
Yep. And they have that ability. Again, we know the playmaking ability. There's a reason, talking about TJ Watt coming off Defensive Player of the Year, there's a reason why they paid him the money that they did this season, because they believed in him. They had this faith in him, and they know what he's capable of. And he's that guy. I think when you talk about leadership, he's a guy that you're really going to see this team rally around, because, again, they don't have the veteran in Ben Roethlisberger. They don't have, Najee Harris is still coming into his own. Not saying he's not going to be a fantastic leader, but you kind of need those 1 or 2 guys. And I think it's just going to be Cam Heyward and TJ Watt. You're going to look to them on offense or on defense. Obviously, you're going to look to them if you are on offense, defense, special teams. That's where I was going with that. It's late. My brain is we're doing well. I'm like in the middle of adjusting to West Coast time. But the leadership skills and the leadership qualities that those guys have, I think that this team is going to rest on them regardless of what happens next season. And I think that, again, it's something that really you can, as a team, pinpoint and say, hey, this is an area of strength. We know, we're confident, we're really, really talented in. Let's find ways to strengthen around it and strengthen our offense so that we can compete. But I feel like, and we keep talking about this, but the defense is going to be that focal point this season.
Absolutely, it has to be. But
Yeah.
even more, what you were getting at with the leadership component.
Yeah.
There's always, Cam Hayward's been a leader, but
Mhm.
there's always a sense that, like, you don't want to out overstep the boundaries of the elder statesmen, of the guys
Yeah.
who are the leaders. And Ben Roethlisberger's been a leader for this team. He's been a guy we saw all year long. He was talking to Najee Harris, telling him about the day of how Jerome Bettis was his guy that brought him into the league and helped him understand things, and trying to help pass on the culture. But now the loudest guys in the room are going to be the defense. It's going to be Cam Heyward. And that's the environment that Ben Roethlisberger himself inherited. When he came in, he wasn't a loud guy. He wasn't, telling anybody what to do. It was Joey Porter. It was Troy Polamalu. It was James Ferrier. It was Casey Hampton. It was those guys. And then as time went on, James Harrison was worked into that mix. And you had all these guys, Aaron Smith, Ike Taylor, Deshae Townsend. That core that they were able to put together was a great defense that carried that team. And then Ben Roethlisberger was like, hey, I'm a pretty good quarterback, and the offense was complementary to what the Steelers defense did back then. That's what I think the Steelers are trying to set up right now, is make that core, because it's not just about a couple superstars. It's not just about TJ Watt, Cam Heyward, Minkah Fitzpatrick. It's great to have those 3 guys, but you need more pieces. You need other guys that are fitting in, kind of like how the Rams have invested to have Jalen Ramsey and Leonard Floyd and Aaron Donald and Taylor Rapp and Fuller. It's all and Von Miller. I mean, they just got guy on guy on guy because they fully invested into it. And the Steelers are in a position now, without the hefty quarterback contract, you can get that guy, and then in the next couple years, or even in this NFL draft, if it works out that way, you can get your quarterback for cheap as a rookie, work with a 5-year deal that kind of keeps it reasonable while you keep investing in that group. And then who knows where you come from a run. But even outside of the potential of a run, I think, is the potential for this new group to set the tone, be the leaders, be the voice, and be the guys that reset the culture of the locker room and say, hey, this is our show. You're just coming into it, guys.
Yeah, I really couldn't agree more. You hit all the nails right on the head there. But that is, again, it's kind of, we see almost like a transition of power in a sense, where it's like, all right, moving things forward here, obviously Ben Roethlisberger, we heard him too at the end of the season after the Chiefs game kind of say, he's passing along the torch to Cam Heyward in terms of what it means to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. And so you're going to see kind of that new wave of tradition. And it's going to be those guys that, this team automatically already looks up to all of those guys, the superstars on defense, but it's going to be about those key role players, who's filling in those gaps that's really going to, win or lose games for this team next season.
Absolutely. And we will see how this group molds its legacy, because I think these next few steps that they're about to take, to set up, who do they go get to amplify this defense, and how does that group gel together? It'll be a huge story, not just for the team, but also for Mike Tomlin. Can he get this group back to being one of the best defenses in the league, or even back to being the best defense in the league? If you go back to the Steelers, when he took over between 2007, when he first started coaching, and 2012, there was only 1 year where the Steelers didn't finish first in either points or yards allowed. And that 1 year was the year that Troy Polamalu was hurt in 2009. If they can get back to doing that kind of stuff, I think it changes a lot about how this team looks at its future, not just long term, but also short. Well, not just short term, but also long term with their plans. But we've talked a lot about the Steelers. Steelers fans, we do got to talk about the Super Bowl. I know we got to get our thoughts on this. It's a big game this weekend. We've been talking about it for 2 weeks. Well, people have been talking about it for 2 weeks. We have not on this show, because we've been focusing on your Pittsburgh Steelers, but we will take a step back and look at it. I want to get Jenna's thoughts, as she's been in LA all week and all the great things she's been able to see. But first, we got to talk to you guys about Built Bar. This is the time of the year that some people are starting to give up on their New Year's resolutions, but not this year. Stick to your resolution by eating right and doing that thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like it's not really a resolution, because you're actually going to enjoy eating Built Bars. Have you tried the new Puffs flavors? If you haven't, you're missing out, because it's one of the best tasting Built Bars that are around. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, and they're not just a protein bar. They're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors like yummy cinnamon, churro, coconut, marshmallow, banana cream pie. All of them are so good, and these are going to be your new favorite. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate, and yes, the Puffs included. That's 100% real chocolate. They're low calorie but high in protein. The average Built Bar has 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, but packs 17 grams of protein. Compare that to the average candy bar that has 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. You're making such a healthier decision. And there's all the flavors you could choose from: coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry cookies and cream, double chocolate, salted caramel, minted brownie. There's so many flavors that you can go to built.com right now and find to get your favorite flavor delivered right to your door. To do that, go to built.com. But when you do, be sure to use the promo code LOCKED15. That's LOCKED15, LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your next order of Built Bars at built.com. And back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm Chris Carter. She's Jenna Harner. We're wrapping things up for the week, getting you ready for the Super Bowl. All right, Jenna, tell me the craziest thing that you've seen since being in LA for the past week, getting ready for Rams Bengals.
That is a great question, because this is LA, and I'm really trying to think in terms of everything, because there's been a lot. Actually today, when I was in Santa Monica, walking around, it was awesome. They have this promenade. It's 3rd Street. It's kind of famous in Santa Monica, but they closed the whole promenade down, and they have just like everything Super Bowl you could want: tents, giveaways, kind of like if you're like a fan experience type thing, but in Santa Monica compared to the one that's downtown. They had like, you could throw the football and into the, targets and get that. You had, the Rams drum line walking through, which was really cool. You had the cheerleaders. We saw them. My personal favorite, the cheerleaders / dance team, because they're awesome. But there was a guy in that just walked out in strictly like a Rams underwear. It was like, I don't know what the bit was there. I respected it. I was like, he was like a 70-year-old man. I'm like, dude, I kind of respect it.
Okay, that's funny. But hey, it's Super Bowl week. This is it.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
when it's time for everyone's pulling out all the stops. And for crazy enough, this is the second straight year that the city that hosts it has their team playing in it. In the Los Angeles Rams. So huge experience for that.
Yeah.
And it's going to be an exciting week. But all week long, Jenna, there's been the talk of Joe Burrow. Is he going to win a Super Bowl in his second year? Is it going to be Aaron Donald? Can the Bengals stop the pass rush of the Rams? I wanted to get your thoughts on who do you give the edge to as far as that matchup? Is Joe Burrow cool enough? Because the man got sacked 9 times by the Titans and still found a way to win. And now you're going up against a pass rush that brings this heat. Does that pass rush even matter if this guy can still play through those?
This matchup to me is fascinating. And I love the fact that it's two teams, and I say this cautiously, I'm treading lightly, but I know Steelers fans do not like the Bengals in any way, shape, or form. But this Bengals team to me, and maybe this is my outside perspective, but these are two teams you don't hate. I've been seeing on Twitter so many Steelers fans that are like, yeah, I'm aboard. Let's go Joe Burrow. And I'm like, I don't know. I respect it. I appreciate your honesty.
You're allowed to do whatever you want, but we're allowed to call you on it.
Yes, exactly. But these are kind of, it's not the Patriots again. It's not the Chiefs again. These are two teams that, I think people are really excited to see. That's kind of where I was going with that. But I look at the matchup, and I mean, you saw what the Rams pass rush did in the NFC Championship game. I mean, that was the reason at the end they won that game. All goes back to Aaron Donald, and this man is so hungry for a championship all week in his media availability. He's kind of been talking about it. One of the most interesting things I loved is he kind of was asked, about the first time he made it. What's different between that time and this time? And he said, when you make it to a Super Bowl, all the hard work it takes, but you put in so much hard work that you think, okay, we're just going to get there next year. We have no problem getting back to this point. And then you realize how hard it is to get back to the Super Bowl and how rare those opportunities are. So he's not taking anything for credit. So expect Aaron Donald to kind of come into this matchup really intense, really, really fired up, as we expect a lot of this team to be. But I think the Titans game was kind of that wake-up call for the Bengals in the sense of we have a lot we need to kind of make sure that we don't do. And that offensive line has their moments where you see good things and then you see some and you're like, I don't know. So I'm giving the edge to the Rams just because of how lethal that pass rush is and how lethal that defense is. I mean, that was the reason they went out and got Von Miller. They wanted to win a Super Bowl. This was a big thing for them. And here they are, one win away from accomplishing that goal. So this game is intriguing to me in so many ways. I saw a tweet today that was kind of fascinating that these offenses are kind of carbon copies of one another. And it's so true. They're very similar offenses. But I think that this game is kind of going to come down to the offensive line of the Bengals versus the Rams pass rush.
I do think that's one of the major matchups in this game. I'm also looking at, Jalen Ramsey and what do they do with him and Jamar Chase? There's been a lot of talk that they might not make Jalen Ramsey follow Jamar Chase. They might kind of just leave, have guys line up in their positions and stay where they are and play their sides of the field and just trust that wherever Jamar Chase is, they'll try to take him away because obviously he's the biggest factor here. And also, the Bengals, their players got 2 awards on Thursday night. You had Joe Burrow win Comeback Player of the Year and Jamar Chase win Offensive Rookie of the Year. That's and that's the day before. That's 2 days before they play in the Super Bowl. I think it says a lot. It's because it's not just going to be about their pass rush. It's going to be about can the Bengals, receivers, and it's not just him. Of course, it's T. Higgins, and of course Pitt's own Tyler Boyd. Who also played high school football here at Clareton. And Jenna, you got to talk to his family, and about what it means for him to be there. I think these are some really cool opportunities that we're about to see with really talented players, but also, 2 teams with major Pitt connections in Tyler Boyd for the Bengals and Aaron Donald for the Rams.
Yeah, just seeing the local connections. I think that's been one of the coolest parts about all of this for our Pittsburgh listeners is, both Aaron Donald and Tyler Boyd are these homegrown talents. Aaron Donald, Penn Hills, went to Pitt. Tyler Boyd, Clairton, went to Pitt. And talking to Tyler Boyd's mom and talking to people who knew Aaron Donald, like they'll tell you that they knew that these guys were going to get there, but it's still so surreal for them to see them on the stage and be like, I knew him when I always saw this talent in him, but it's different when you see them there on the biggest stage in the sport doing what they're doing.
Absolutely, it is different. I mean, and it's also when you talk about it for so long about you're going to get there, and then finally look around. Oh wait, this is the Super Bowl. This is the moment.
Yeah.
And Aaron Donald, his second trip there, it's because he was there and they lost a close one to the Patriots the last time he was there. It's going to be really intriguing to see how things play out. All right, all that aside, it's predictions time. Jenna, who you got winning? Give me your turning point of the game, what decides it, and your final score.
This is so hard. This is beyond difficult for me because this can be a game I think easily both teams could win. And you could tell me, oh, the Rams won because of this and the Bengals won because of this. And I'm like, oh, yeah, well, that makes sense. Absolutely. Like if you say, oh, the Bengals win because Joe Burrow went off and had a phenomenal night and, Jamar Chase was unstoppable. Or, oh, the Rams won because, Matt Stafford found Cooper Kupp twice and the defense came up clutch. Like there are plausible reasons for both of these teams to win. There isn't that at least in my opinion, crazy, like heavy favorite. Like again, going back, this isn't the Chiefs going up against a smaller AFC team, or this isn't the Patriots riding the hot hand with Tom Brady.
Right.
These are seemingly very evenly matched teams. I think I just got to go with the Rams strictly because of what they have on paper. But again, it's so hard to count Joe Burrow out in a championship game. I mean, he's been on these big stages. I'm going to be so intrigued to see how he handles everything on Sunday night. But I think on paper, I got to go with the Rams. I'm making sure my math is correct here. I'm counting in my head. I think I'm going the Rams 31, Bengals 24. It's going to be close. It's going to be back and forth. I think it's going to be a really entertaining game, but I think the Rams just make one more play, whether it's the defense kind of capitalizing on a turnover, giving Matthew Stafford a short field, or just Cooper Kupp having a phenomenal evening. Again, LA time, it's weird. I'm going with the Rams in this one, but this is no doubt going to be a really awesome game.
I think it's going to be an awesome game, and one thing you said, there's a lot of parallels between these teams. Two quarterbacks that have big arms that can move around a bit to buy times for their teammates. Loaded receiving cores, whether it's Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, or it's it's Cooper Kupp, who won Offensive Player of the Year, phenomenal guy. That guy. Cooper Kupp's on another level, man. Like that dude is ridiculous what he's able to do. He does it all. Anyone that tries to say, "Oh, he's just a route runner," you're crazy. That man does way too much stuff. And then you got Odell Beckham Jr., who has come on strong for them in their weeks leading up to the playoffs and had an over 100 yards in the NFC Championship game. They've done a ton. And then again, you talk about that defense. The Rams do have a lot, but I'm going with the Bengals. And here's my switch up here, because I was feeling the Rams, but when I was looking back at the film and how the Bengals adjusted to what Patrick Mahomes did in the second half and how they were able to take away the things that he liked, I think that I've never felt solidified that Matt Stafford is some great quarterback. I've always thought he's talented. I've always thought he has a big arm and he has the gusto you need of a starting quarterback, but he's never been a starting quarterback that frightens me, that like, oh my gosh, we're playing Matt Stafford. And I truly think that if the Bengals made that kind of adjustment to Patrick Mahomes, even if the Rams jump out to an early lead, the Bengals can adjust to it, get him to make some mistakes late and fight their way back. I think it's also important to point out, when you look at how some of these games have been played, when you look at the Rams and you look at their schedule, you think back to their last 4 games they played, or 3 games, or however long the playoffs have been. You think back to the regular season game. They lost the last game of the season. Why? Because they gave up a 17-0 lead to the San Francisco 49ers. You go to their playoff games. Now, they blew the Cardinals out. That wasn't an issue. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were dead and buried, and they allowed them back. You look at that. Now, the Niners are different. They had to come back on the Niners, but the Rams haven't put together the the ultimate the ultimate complete game yet for me. And that to me, the Bengals have been cardiac kids, and I think that if that defense makes adjustments on Matt Stafford, I'm not sure if he's ready to take that. And if Joe Burrow can just get enough out of his playmakers, they can find ways to put up points. I'm saying the Bengals win this one 27-24. It's going to come down to a late drive, and they find a way to get it done. And it might even be the Bengals kicker who makes the kick because they say he never misses to get it done. But I'm going Bengals. You're going Rams. But either way, I do agree this is going to be a fun one to watch.
Evan McPherson fan club, I would like to say that right now. Just making a point of that.
He is exciting. I do like it. It's also crazy to think, we've watched a league with Justin Tucker and Chris Boswell for the past several years, and now we're getting this kid just bursting onto the scene and talking all sorts of stuff about how good he is. And I'm like, it's kind of cool to see kickers with swagger. It's kind of cool to see that come into the game. But there you have it. Jenna picks the Rams. I got the Bengals. We'll see who was right Sunday night in the Super Bowl. But Steelers fans, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you joining the Locked On Steelers podcast as always. Remember, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, and YouTube. Like this video if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for all of our daily content there. If you want to help out the show further, go on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review with a positive comment, and we get a shout out at the end of the show. Jenna, thanks so much for you joining us here. You're always a pleasure to have on the show, especially on Fridays, getting us ready for game days. Let people know you can find you, follow you, and get more of your work and what you're going to be doing for the Super Bowl.
Oh, well, Chris, it is always a pleasure to join you on Fridays. My favorite part of Fridays. You can find me on Twitter at JennaHarner11, Instagram, Jenna_Harner, WPXI. We're going to continue to bring you guys awesome coverage from here in LA. I got some really cool stories coming for you the next 2 days. And then Super Bowl coverage is going to be kind of interesting with NBC having the Olympics. It's kind of Olympic heavy, Super Bowl heavy, Olympic heavy. So we will be live from SoFi Stadium after the game. I believe it's 11 p.m. Eastern time. Maybe it's midnight. Just kidding. Midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific. I don't know anything with time changes. So definitely tune in. We'll have some really awesome content for you. The up to the minute reactions, again, getting Aaron Donald, getting Tyler Boyd, getting former Steeler Mike Hilton, all those guys talking about the game, and depending on who wins, elation, excitement, maybe a little bit of potential heartbreak, and all the emotions that a lot of these players are going to feel. So definitely tune in, because I'll be giving you guys all the inside scoop and everything happening from SoFi Stadium. Should be an awesome Sunday.
Yes, it should be. Do check out Channel 11 WPXI. They're going to be doing a lot of great work. Even if you're not in the Pittsburgh area, you can watch it on WPXI now by going to WPXI.com. Thanks again for checking out the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. Be back in your ears and on your screens Monday. It might be a little bit late, might be a little bit early. I'm debating on how I want to film this upcoming episode, but we'll see how that goes out. But either way, have a great weekend. Enjoy your Super Bowl. Spend it with family, spend it with friends, spend it responsibly. And we'll be talking to you soon right here on the Locked On Steelers podcast.